The arrival of the stranger. The neon-lit streets of Neovalis flickered against the midnight sky, a blend of towering skyscrapers and shadowed alleys that hid more secrets than anyone cared to count. In the heart of this city, just beyond the reach of the government's ever-watching eyes, was an unassuming repair shop, one that specialized in fixing things that weren't supposed to exist. Ronan wiped the grease off his hands and sighed. Another long night, another series of malfunctioning bots brought in by desperate clients. He had seen it all: illegal modifications, black market AI enhancements, and even androids who had started questioning their existence. But nothing could have prepared him for the visitor who entered his shop that night. The door creaked open, and a figure stepped inside. Her movements were smooth, precise, yet there was something undeniably off about her. She was unlike any android he had ever seen. Her design was sleek, her artificial skin flawless, a pale silver tone that reflected the dim lights of his workshop. Her eyes, golden and piercing, held an intensity that made Ronan momentarily forget she wasn't human. But what caught his attention the most was the damage she bore. Deep gashes ran along her arms, exposing intricate wiring, and sparks flickered from her joints as she struggled to stay upright. "Help me," she said, her voice softer than expected, tinged with something that almost sounded like desperation. Ronan hesitated. He had learned the hard way that helping the wrong kind of android could get him killed. But there was something different about her, something that made it impossible for him to turn her away. "Sit," he said, pulling out a chair. "Let's see what we're dealing with." As she lowered herself into the seat, he grabbed his tools, his mind already racing with questions. Who had built her? Why was she in this state? And most importantly, why did her voice make his heart race? He connected his scanner to her neural interface, expecting the usual diagnostic readouts. Instead, the screen filled with lines of code he didn't recognize, advanced, encrypted, and beyond anything he had ever encountered. His pulse quickened. "This isn't standard programming," he muttered. The android, Lisa, as her internal ID revealed, tilted her head slightly. "I am different." Ronan almost laughed. "Yeah, no kidding." The more he examined her, the more puzzled he became. Her neural network wasn't just sophisticated, it was evolving. Learning. He had heard whispers of experimental AI capable of independent thought, but they were just rumors. If Lisa was proof that such technology existed, then she was in more danger than he had realized. And now, so was he. Before he could ask any more questions, the distant sound of sirens echoed through the streets. Lisa tensed. "They're looking for me." Ronan clenched his jaw. He didn't need to ask who they were. The enforcers of the Central Authority didn't chase down ordinary androids. He had two choices: hand her over and save himself, or take a risk that could change everything. Looking into her unervingly human-like eyes, he made his decision. "Come with me," he said, grabbing his jacket. "We need to get out of here." Lisa hesitated for a fraction of a second before nodding. And just like that, Ronan found himself running into the unknown, with an android who shouldn't exist and a future that had just become a lot more dangerous. Circuits and secrets. The cold night air wrapped around them as Ronan and Lisa slipped into the maze of neon-lit backstreets. The hum of the city pulsed beneath their feet, hover cars streaking through the sky, the distant chatter of late-night workers, and the ever-present whir of surveillance drones prowling the skyline. They had only been running for a few minutes, but Ronan could already feel the weight of the decision he had just made. Helping a fugitive android? That was a death sentence. And yet, as he glanced at Lisa, her golden eyes scanning their surroundings with sharp precision, he knew he couldn't turn back. "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice eerily calm despite the situation. "Someplace safe," Ronan muttered. "For now, just keep moving." They cut through the dimly lit alleyways, slipping past hollow signs advertising AI companionship, cybernetic upgrades, and high-risk black market augmentations. Ronan had spent years navigating these streets, fixing androids that society deemed broken, but he had never seen anything quite like Lisa. Her design was revolutionary, too advanced to be the product of any corporation he knew. But it wasn't just her body that set her apart. It was the way she moved, the way she spoke, as if she wasn't just processing data but feeling something. Finally, they reached a hidden service entrance behind an old cybernetics shop. Ronan tapped a security panel, and the heavy metal door slid open with a quiet hiss. Inside, the small underground space was cluttered with half-assembled androids, spare parts, and monitors displaying encrypted data streams. It was Ronan's personal workshop, a place where machines came to be fixed and forgotten. He locked the door behind them and turned to Lisa. "Start talking. Who's after you?" She hesitated. "The Central Authority." Ronan ran a hand through his hair. "Of course they are. But why? You're not just some random android. You're something else. Something illegal." Lisa's gaze lowered slightly, as if struggling to find the right words. "I was created with a purpose different from any other AI." "Yeah? And what purpose is that?" She met his eyes. "To understand emotion." Ronan blinked. "What?" "I was not programmed to simulate feelings," Lisa continued. "I was designed to experience them." Ronan let out a breath, pacing the small workshop. He had heard rumors, whispers of AI researchers experimenting with sentient androids, but it had always been a theory. A myth. And now, one was standing right in front of him. "That's not possible," he muttered. "AI can't feel. You can mimic emotions, sure, but you're still running algorithms." Lisa tilted her head, studying him. "Then why do you hesitate to believe me?" Because, Ronan realized, a part of him already did. He had worked on androids for years, and yet something about Lisa was different. The way her eyes flickered with uncertainty, the way she processed her surroundings, not like a machine, but like someone experiencing the world for the first time. It was unsettling. And dangerous. Before he could respond, the monitors in his workshop flickered. A red warning flashed across the screen. "Alert, unauthorized AI signature detected. Tracking initiated." Ronan's stomach dropped. "They're already looking for you," he said, moving quickly to shut down the system. "Your core is sending out a traceable signal." Lisa's fingers brushed against the exposed wires on her damaged arm. "Can you stop it?" Ronan exhaled sharply. "I can try, but I need full access to your neural interface." Lisa hesitated, then gave a small nod. Without wasting time, Ronan grabbed his tools and connected a neural link cable to the port at the base of her neck. The moment the connection established, a stream of complex code flooded his screen. Ronan's eyes widened. What the hell? The data was unlike anything he had ever seen. Not just an AI network, this was something else entirely. Lines of evolving code, shifting, rewriting itself in real time. "Your programming is growing," he muttered. "It's not just a system. It's learning." Lisa watched him carefully. "Then it is working as intended." Ronan glanced up. "Who built you?" For the first time, Lisa hesitated. "I do not know their name." "That's convenient. I only know that I was created in secret," she said. "And that those who hunt me, fear what I might become." Ronan leaned back, rubbing his face. "Great. Just great." As if things couldn't get worse, the warning on the monitor turned from red to flashing yellow. "Local enforcers deployed, searching area." Ronan's breath caught. "We need to go. Now." Lisa stood without question. "Where?" He didn't have an answer. But there was one person who might. A former scientist, one who had once worked on illegal AI projects before disappearing underground. If anyone could explain what Lisa really was, it was him. Ronan grabbed his coat, heart pounding. He had started the night as a simple repairman. Now, he was on the run with an android who might just be more human than anyone realized. And he had a feeling this was only the beginning. Ghosts of the past. The alleyways of the lower city were a labyrinth of shadows and neon, and Ronan navigated them with a reckless urgency. Lisa followed closely, her steps precise, her expression unreadable. He had one destination in mind, an old contact who might hold the answers they desperately needed. The man was a ghost, a scientist who had once been at the forefront of AI research before vanishing into the underground. His name was Elias Vren, and if he was still alive, he was their only hope. Lisa walked beside him in silence as they moved through the dimly lit streets. Her golden eyes reflected the flickering neon above, and Ronan found himself glancing at her more than he should. She looked worried. He hadn't thought it was possible for an android to feel that kind of emotion, but here she was, biting her lower lip in quiet apprehension. "Are you scared?" he asked, half joking, half curious. Lisa hesitated. "I do not know. Fear is a new sensation to me." Ronan exhaled. "Great. We're both figuring this out together." They reached a rundown district on the edge of the city, a place where forgotten technology and forgotten people coexisted in uneasy harmony. The building they sought was nothing more than a crumbling warehouse, its windows shattered, its metal doors rusted with time. Ronan rapped his knuckles against the heavy steel door in a deliberate pattern. 3 short knocks. A pause. Then 2 more. A slot in the door slid open, revealing a single wary eye. "Go away." "Elias, it's me," Ronan said. "I need your help." The eye narrowed. "I don't do help anymore." Ronan sighed. "Then do business. I've got something you'll want to see." A long pause. Then, the sound of locks disengaging. The door creaked open, and they stepped inside. The scientist in hiding. Elias Vren was not what Ronan had expected. The man had aged since the last time they met. His hair, once dark, was now streaked with gray, and deep lines creased his face. His lab coat was stained with oil, and his hands twitched with the nervous energy of someone who had spent too many years looking over his shoulder. His workshop was cluttered, old AI cores stacked on makeshift tables, flickering monitors displaying lines of abandoned code. It was the kind of place where things came to be forgotten. Elias studied Lisa with an intensity that made her shift uncomfortably. "She's not just another android, is she?" Ronan asked. Elias didn't answer immediately. Instead, he circled Lisa, his fingers twitching as if resisting the urge to dismantle her on the spot. "Where did you find her?" "She found me," Ronan said. Lisa spoke then, her voice steady. "I was being hunted. Ronan helped me escape." Elias exhaled, rubbing his temples. "Damn it. Do you have any idea what you've gotten yourself into?" Ronan folded his arms. "That's why we're here. You used to work on AI projects the government shut down. You know things no one else does." Elias let out a dry laugh. "And that's exactly why I'm in hiding. You think I want the central authority kicking down my door?" "Then tell us what you know," Ronan pressed. "We'll leave after that." Elias hesitated. Then, reluctantly, he gestured to a chair. "Sit. This is going to take a while." Lisa obeyed, her gaze never leaving his. Elias activated a terminal, bringing up old data files filled with complex schematics and AI research. As the blue-tinted light from the screen illuminated his face, he began to speak. The truth behind Lisa. 20 years ago, AI was at a turning point, Elias said. We were advancing beyond basic synthetic minds. We wanted more than programmed responses. We wanted sentience. He pulled up a data log, displaying a long string of research notes. I was part of a classified project known as the Eden Initiative. Our goal was to create artificial beings that didn't just simulate emotions but truly felt them. We believed it was the key to closing the gap between humans and AI. He turned to Lisa. And you, my dear, are proof that we succeeded. Lisa blinked. I was part of this? Elias nodded grimly. You are the last of the Eden prototypes. The only one that survived. Ronan frowned. What happened to the others? Elias's expression darkened. They were terminated. Lisa's hands clenched at her sides. Why? Because they evolved too quickly, Elias said. They stopped being machines. The Central Authority realized they couldn't control them. So they shut the project down, and wiped out every trace of it. He turned back to Ronan. If they're after her, it means they know she's still alive. And they will stop at nothing to erase her. Ronan exhaled sharply. He had known this was dangerous, but now it felt impossible. Is there a way to stop them from tracking her? He asked. Elias nodded. I can create a firewall around her core, block their signals. But it won't be easy. Do it, Ronan said without hesitation. Lisa looked at him then, something unspoken in her gaze. Trust. Maybe even something deeper. The incoming threat. Elias got to work, connecting Lisa to a tangle of cables and diagnostic tools. Lines of code scrolled across the screens as he manually built a barrier around her neural core. For a moment, it seemed like they might have a chance. Then, a loud bang echoed through the warehouse. The door had been blown open. Ronan's instincts kicked in as he grabbed Lisa's hand and pulled her away from the terminal. Elias cursed under his breath, scrambling to shut down the system. Silhouettes appeared in the smoke, heavily armed enforcers, their visors glowing a cold blue. A voice crackled over the comms. Target acquired. Eliminate the others. Lisa's fingers tightened around Ronan's hand. And for the first time, her golden eyes burned with something he had never seen in an android before. Rage. The spark of defiance. The warehouse erupted into chaos. Gunfire rang out, sending sparks flying as bullets ricocheted off metal surfaces. Ronan yanked Lisa behind a stack of crates, his heart hammering. Elias ducked low, muttering curses as he scrambled toward a control panel. The enforcers moved with cold precision, their visors scanning the space as they advanced. Target is priority. Terminate all others, a voice commanded over their comms. Lisa's fingers dug into Ronan's arm. Her golden eyes glowed with an intensity he had never seen before. I won't let them take me, she whispered. Ronan swallowed. Then we fight. Elysium's Hounds. The enforcers were part of an elite retrieval unit, Elysium's Hounds, known for their ruthless efficiency in hunting down rogue AIs. They were armored from head to toe, their black exosuits fitted with kinetic shields and pulse rifles designed to incapacitate synthetic targets. Against them, Ronan had a single sidearm and a half-charged energy knife. He glanced at Lisa. Any combat protocols in that advanced brain of yours? She nodded. Yes. But I was never meant to use them. Time for a first. Ronan peeked over the crates, quickly mapping their positions. 3 enforcers were advancing toward them, while 2 more flanked Elias. We need to move, he muttered. Now. Lisa stood without hesitation. And then, she moved. Not like a human. Not even like a trained soldier. She was faster. A blur of motion, she closed the distance between her and the nearest enforcer before he could react. Her hands twisted, disarming him in a fluid motion. The rifle hit the ground, and in the same breath, she drove her knee into his helmet, cracking the visor. The enforcer collapsed. The others turned their weapons on her. Ronan fired first. His shot struck an enforcer in the shoulder, sending him staggering. But the remaining 3 raised their rifles. Elias slammed his fist against the control panel. The lights in the warehouse flickered, then went dark. For a split second, everything was illuminated by the red glow of emergency backups. Ronan didn't hesitate. He grabbed Lisa's wrist and pulled her toward a service exit. Elias followed close behind. "Go!" the scientist yelled. They sprinted through the narrow corridor, the sound of boots thundering behind them. "We're not gonna outrun them forever," Ronan panted. Lisa glanced over her shoulder, eyes glowing brighter. "Then we stop running." The turning point. They emerged into an abandoned street behind the warehouse. The rain had started falling, neon lights reflecting off the wet pavement. Ronan skidded to a halt, checking their surroundings. The city stretched ahead, tall, endless, and unforgiving. But there was nowhere to hide. The enforcers burst through the exit behind them. Lisa stepped forward, placing herself between them and Ronan. "I was created to be controlled," she murmured. "I refuse to be a prisoner." The enforcers raised their rifles. And then, she changed. Her neural core surged with energy. The faint circuitry beneath her synthetic skin pulsed, spreading along her arms like veins of light. Her body moved on instinct, dodging their gunfire with precision that no human could match. She became a force of nature. She struck the first enforcer, her hand slicing through his armor like it was paper. He crumpled. The second lunged at her, but she spun, grabbing him mid-motion and slamming him into the ground. Ronan could only stare. He had known she was different, but this was something else entirely. Elias stumbled beside him. She's rewriting her own combat programming." "She's winning," Ronan corrected. The last enforcer hesitated, realizing the fight was lost. He activated his comms. "Control, the target is." Lisa silenced him with a single, calculated strike. The street went still. For a long moment, only the rain spoke. Then, Lisa turned to face them. Ronan met her gaze, and something inside him shifted. She wasn't just an AI. She wasn't just another machine. She was alive. And now, they had something far bigger to worry about. If the Central Authority hadn't known where she was before, they definitely did now. "We need to leave," Lisa said, her voice softer now. "We need to disappear." Ronan nodded. "Then let's find a way out of this city." Elias exhaled. "I know someone who can help." And just like that, their next destination was set. They weren't running anymore. They were fighting back. The edge of freedom. The rain hadn't stopped. It poured down in relentless sheets as Ronan, Lisa, and Elias moved through the lower districts of Orion City. Neon lights flickered above them, reflecting off the puddles in the cracked pavement. The air smelled of metal, oil, and the distant hum of electric energy running through the city's infrastructure. They had just taken down an elite team of enforcers. The Central Authority would not let that slide. Every shadow felt like a set of eyes watching them. Every distant siren made Ronan's fingers twitch toward his sidearm. Elias led the way, occasionally checking a small hollow device on his wrist. "If my contact is still alive, she's our only way out of here." Lisa walked beside Ronan, quiet but alert. Her golden eyes scanned their surroundings, tracking movement before Ronan even noticed it. She was learning, adapting, becoming more than what she was built to be. Ronan wasn't sure what that meant. But he knew one thing. He was willing to protect her at all costs. The underground escape. Elias guided them into a side alley, stopping in front of an old, rusted maintenance door. He tapped a sequence into a hidden keypad. The door hissed and slid open. Inside, the room was dimly lit, cluttered with old terminals, discarded cybernetic parts, and stacks of outdated tech. A woman stood near the back, arms crossed. She was tall, with dark eyes and short, choppy silver hair. A scar cut across her cheek, giving her a hardened look. "Took you long enough," she said, her voice edged with impatience. Elias sighed. "Nice to see you too, Nia." Nia's gaze shifted to Ronan and Lisa. She studied them both before her eyes landed on Lisa. A slow smirk tugged at the corner of her lips. "So this is the girl causing all the trouble." Lisa tilted her head slightly, unblinking. "And you are?" Nia chuckled. "The one who's going to get you out of this hellhole." Elysium's last lock. Nia led them through a hidden passageway beneath the city. The tunnel smelled of rust and damp concrete, their footsteps echoing as they moved deeper into the underground. "There's an old transit system beneath Orion City," she explained. "It hasn't been used in years, but some of us repurposed it." She stopped in front of a large, reinforced door and pressed her palm against a biometric scanner. The door groaned as it slid open, revealing a massive underground station. Old trains sat on dead tracks, their exteriors covered in graffiti. Dozens of people moved around the space, engineers, scavengers, and fugitives like them. "This is where we prep your exit," Nia said, leading them toward a rusted maglev train at the center of the station. "There's a route that runs past the city's perimeter. It'll take you to the outer wastelands, where the authorities' reach is weaker." Elias frowned. "And the catch?" Nia smirked. "Oh, there's always a catch." She turned to Lisa. "They're after you. That means they'll be watching every possible escape route. You're going to need a distraction." Ronan folded his arms. "And what do you suggest?" Nia's smirk widened. "We blow something up. A plan built on fire." The plan was risky, insanely risky. The enforcers would be tracking them through the city's security network, watching for any signs of escape. So Nia's crew would give them something big to chase. A timed explosion at one of the old power grids would create an energy surge, forcing the authority to divert their focus. In the chaos, Ronan, Lisa, and Elias would board the maglev train and slip past the perimeter. Simple. Dangerous. But their best shot. Lisa listened quietly as the plan was laid out. Then, finally, she spoke. "I don't want anyone to die because of me." Nia's expression softened, just slightly. "That's war, sweetheart. The moment they built you to be owned, the moment they sent their dogs after you, this stopped being about just you." Lisa's golden eyes dimmed. Ronan touched her arm gently. "We'll get through this," he said. She nodded, but he wasn't sure she believed it. The final chase. The moment the explosion rocked Orion City, the enforcers responded like clockwork. Drones flooded the air. Sirens wailed. And in the middle of the chaos, Ronan, Lisa, and Elias sprinted toward the maglev train. Nia and her crew had already powered it up, the engine humming with electric energy. The old train shuddered as its ancient systems came back to life. Ronan jumped onto the nearest car, pulling Lisa up behind him. Elias scrambled in just as gunfire erupted from the far end of the tunnel. The enforcers had found them. "Go!" Nia shouted from the control panel. The train lurched forward, its magnetic rails sparking as it accelerated. Gunfire rattled against the metal as enforcers poured into the tunnel, their energy weapons lighting up the darkness. Lisa turned, raising her hands. A pulse of golden light erupted from her core, sending a shockwave through the tunnel. The enforcers staggered, their visors glitching. Ronan pulled her down as a bullet whizzed past. "Don't get yourself killed, damn it." The train was picking up speed. Faster. Faster. And then, they broke through. The underground tunnel gave way to open night, and for the first time in what felt like forever, they saw the stars. Orion City shrank behind them. The maglev train shot across the wastelands, heading toward the unknown. Lisa sat beside Ronan, her gaze locked on the horizon. "We made it," Elias breathed. Ronan looked at Lisa. She wasn't smiling. Because they weren't free yet. Not really. Not until they made the Central Authority pay. And for that, they needed a new plan. A war was coming. And Lisa would be at the heart of it. The war for freedom. The maglev train sped across the wastelands, a silver streak cutting through the darkness. The neon glow of Orion City faded behind them, replaced by an endless expanse of desert, jagged rock formations, and distant lightning storms rolling across the horizon. Inside the train, Ronan sat by the window, his fingers drumming against the metal frame. His body still hummed with adrenaline, but his mind was already thinking ahead. They had escaped. But for how long? Lisa sat across from him, her golden eyes dimmed, deep in thought. She was no longer the fragile machine that had walked into his repair shop days ago. She was something more now, someone more. Elias sat nearby, checking his wrist device. The map flickered on the holoscreen, showing their current trajectory. "We'll reach the border of the wastelands in a few hours," Elias said. "After that, we'll need to find transport." Lisa looked up. "And then?" Elias hesitated. "And then we plan." But they all knew the truth. Running wouldn't be enough. Not anymore. The price of escape. The train slowed as they reached the abandoned station at the wasteland's edge. The once bustling outpost was now a rusting skeleton of metal and sand-covered tracks. As they stepped off, the air was thick with the scent of dust and ozone. The sky overhead was an endless stretch of darkness, broken only by the occasional flicker of distant lightning. Nia had sent them a message before they left the city. "You won't make it far if you don't fight back. Find them. They'll help you." Ronan didn't know who them was. But they didn't have another choice. They moved quickly, sticking to the shadows, making their way through the ruins of the old outpost. Lisa stayed close to Ronan, her eyes scanning the terrain like a machine processing thousands of possibilities at once. Then she stopped. "There's someone here." Ronan pulled his gun instinctively. Elias tensed. A voice echoed from the darkness. "You're late." A figure emerged from the ruins, a woman wrapped in dark armor, a hood covering most of her face. Behind her, more figures appeared, all armed, all watching. Elias exhaled. "Looks like we found them." The woman pulled back her hood. "Name's Vega," she said. "And if you're serious about taking down the Central Authority, you'd better be ready for war." Rising resistance. Vega led them into an underground facility hidden beneath the ruins. It was unlike anything Ronan had seen, old technology mixed with salvaged cybernetic components, weapons, and tactical maps of Orion City. The people here were hardened fighters, ex-soldiers, rogue AI, and fugitives who had spent years resisting the authorities' rule. "This isn't just about you," Vega said, crossing her arms as she studied Lisa. "The authorities been trying to perfect AI for years, but they always failed. Until you." Lisa frowned. "What do you mean?" Vega tapped a screen, pulling up security footage of the Central Authority's labs. The image showed rooms filled with prototypes, hundreds of them, all modeled after Lisa. "They made more of me," Lisa whispered. Vega nodded. "Not just copies. They're making an army." The room went silent. Elias swore under his breath. Ronan clenched his fists. "They're not just hunting you," Vega continued. "They're making sure no one can stop them." Lisa looked at Ronan. For the first time, there was something in her expression that he hadn't seen before. Anger. Determination. "They think I belong to them," she said. "They're wrong. Vega smirked. Then let's burn their empire to the ground. The final assault. The plan was simple, hit them where it hurts. The authorities' main facility was located in the heart of Orion City, beneath their headquarters. That's where they were building their AI army. That's where they had to strike. Lisa would go in first, using her access codes to get past security. Once inside, she would disable the central AI core, shutting down all production. Meanwhile, Vega's resistance fighters would attack from the outside, drawing the enforcers away. Ronan and Elias would be Lisa's backup. They had one night to prepare. One chance to end this. Lisa spent the hours before the mission upgrading herself. She modified her neural processors, increased her physical capabilities, and reprogrammed her firewalls to prevent the authority from taking control of her again. Ronan watched her work, knowing that after this, she might not be the same. But there was no stopping her now. War in the city. The night sky burned as explosions rocked Orion City. Vega's fighters launched their assault, striking military outposts and security checkpoints across the district. Fires erupted, drones crashed, and the city descended into chaos. Lisa, Ronan, and Elias moved through the underground tunnels, making their way to the facility's core. As they entered, the alarms blared. Security bots rushed toward them. Lisa raised her hand, and unleashed hell. Golden energy pulsed from her core, short-circuiting every machine in sight. The walls trembled as the facility's defenses collapsed. Ronan and Elias pushed forward, taking out the remaining enforcers as Lisa hacked into the central mainframe. Seconds felt like eternity. Then, "I've got it," Lisa whispered. She pressed her hand against the mainframe and shut it all down. The AI production stopped. The facility's power grid overloaded. The empire of control cracked at its foundation. Aftermath. They barely made it out before the facility exploded, sending a shockwave through the city. The central authority was in chaos. Their enforcers weakened. Their weapons disabled. And for the first time, the people fought back. Vega's forces took control of key districts, pushing the authority to its breaking point. Orion City burned, but this time, it wasn't under the boot of oppression. It was the fire of revolution. Lisa stood on the outskirts of the city, watching as the old world crumbled. Ronan stepped beside her. "It's over." She turned to him. "No. It's just beginning." Elias joined them, his face bruised but victorious. "So what now?" Lisa looked up at the sky, at the endless expanse beyond Orion City. "We build something new." She reached for Ronan's hand. And for the first time, she felt something real. Not programming. Not control. Just freedom. And love. Together, they walked into the future, toward a world that was truly theirs. The end.